"Leaving so soon?" a familiar female voice asked. "The festivities are over." He turned to face the woman who'd hijacked his thoughts just moments before. Kelly, her hair pulled loosely behind her head, soft waves escaping and grazing her shoulders, stood close beside him. Her warm, inviting lemony scent enveloped him in heat. Nash was a man who valued his personal space. Kelly was a woman who pushed past boundaries, yet for a reason he couldn't fathom, he lacked his usual desire to find safer ground. "The band is still playing," she pointed out. "No one will realize I'm gone." Or care. His leaving would probably ease any tension his presence created. "I would." She gazed at him with perceptive brown eyes. Intelligent, chocolate-colored eyes that seemed to see beyond the indifferent facade he presented to the world. One he thought he'd perfected in his late teens, when his life had been turned upside down by his parents' deaths, followed quickly by Ethan's abandonment of both Nash and their younger brother, Dare. "Why do you care?" he asked, even though he knew he'd be smarter to walk away. She shrugged, a sexy lift of one shoulder that drew his attention to her soft-looking skin. "Because you seem as out of place here as I am." She paused. "Except you're not a stranger to town or to this family." Out of place. That one comment summed up his entire existence lately. How had she figured him out when no one else ever could? "I need to leave," he said, immediately uncomfortable. "What you need is to relax," she countered, and stopped him with one hand on his shoulder. "Let's dance." She playfully tugged on his tie. He glanced over to where the rest of the family gathered next to the dance floor. "I'm not really interested in making a spectacle." "Then we won't." She slipped her hand in his and led him to the far side of the house beneath an old weeping willow tree. He could still hear the slow music, but he could no longer see the dance floor, and whoever was out there couldn't see them. She tightened her hold on his hand, and he realized he'd better take control or she'd be leading him through this dance. He wrapped an arm around her waist, slid his other hand into hers, and swayed to the sultry sound of the music coming from the band. A slight breeze blew through the long dripping branches of the tree. She shivered and eased her body closer to his, obviously in need of warmth. He inched his hand up her bare back. "Cold?" he asked in a gruff voice, as her body heat and scent wrapped around him. "Not anymore." He looked into her eyes to discover an awareness that matched his own, glanced down and caught sight of her lush lips. As they moved together to the music, warning bells rang in his head, but nothing could have stopped him from settling his mouth on hers. The first touch was electric, a heady combination of sparkling champagne and sensual, willing woman. Her lips were soft and giving, and he wasn't sure how long their mouths lingered in a chaste kiss they both knew was anything but. His entire body came alive, reminding him of what he'd been missing in the 2 years since his divorce. That this woman could awaken him both surprised and unnerved him. It made him want to feel more. He trailed his hand up the soft skin of her back and cupped her head in one hand. With a sweet sigh, she opened for him, letting him really taste her for the first time. Warmth, heat, and desire flooded through him. "Oh, gross! Just shoot me now!" Tess exclaimed in a disgusted voice. Nash jerked back at the unwanted interruption. "What the hell are you doing?" he asked, the annoyed words escaping before he could think it through. "Looking for Kelly. What are you doing?" She perched her hands on her hips, demanding an answer. Wasn't it obvious? Nash shook his head and swallowed a groan. The kid was the biggest wise-ass he'd ever come across. "You found me," Kelly said, sounding calmer than he did.